County, the land of Lincoln, but today it's the land of Jim Shaw. I want to say thank you to Jim. I'm here at his beautiful office, and we've got a guest. Say hi.
Hi.
Who are you now? Who you are?
My name is Anna Shaw.
And this is Daddy, right? And you've never got to see Dad wrestle, have you?
No.
Other than probably at the house, right? Wrestling around.
Kinda.
That's what I figure. That's why we never lose our desire to wrestle. But Jim is the 1999 140-pound state champion from LaRue County. Got up with him. He was gracious enough to have me down in Hodgenville, come to his office and do the video. So we're going to go through the video. But first, how did you find wrestling? How does wrestling find you?
Yeah, I was, so we were talking off camera a little bit, but I was telling him, so I guess it was my sophomore year, Jason Dietrich, who you all will see later, was my best friend, one of my best friends, and I had played basketball, 7th grade, 8th grade, and freshman, and I was not very good at basketball. I fouled more than I scored, but Jason and I made a deal that if I came out and wrestled, he'd come out and play baseball, because I played multiple sports, and so I came out for the wrestling team as a sophomore and never looked back.
Hey, and that shows you that it does help to start earlier in life, but you don't have to start earlier, as a kid in elementary school to be successful. Starting as a sophomore
Right.
and winning a state championship, that's pretty good way to go about it. So off camera we've talking, but this state championship is pretty cool for a couple reasons. One, we'll talk about just in a second, but you had the only pin in the championship round. So for those wondering, you probably had one of the hardest brackets ever with all these matches, but only one pin. So there's something, you can hang your hat on. And then you were saying you didn't have how many points scored on you all year as a senior?
Yeah, I think if my memory's right, like legitimate points scored, being there were people that got away or I let up.
Right.
I was better on my feet than I was on top. Mm-hmm. But I had 12 points scored on me all year long.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't have your record. Do you remember what your record was?
It was, I was, as a senior, I was 42-0.
Okay.
So I was undefeated.
All right. Now, the video that we've got queued up, I think the announcer says it, but sometimes people said, hey, that's not right, or they got the information from, the wrong person or whatever.
Right.
So if it's 42-0, that's a pretty impressive senior record.
Well, we got to go back and caveat, so a couple things that we'll just ad-lib. You can edit it out if it's not good stuff. But so started as a sophomore, I was awful, terrible. So one of the things about wrestling that I've always appreciated that I think you all will see through these videos, and thanks Alex for doing all this. It's pretty amazing. I know a lot of people are getting to be like me and reminisce 20 years ago and what used to be, and what for me was some foundational years of my life and friendships, and wrestling was a big part of that. But as a sophomore, I was not, I was competitive. I think I lost as many as I won that year. I was maybe 14-14 or 15-15. And it was extremely hard. I think this is one of the, wrestling's a sport that there's not anybody else out there with you.
Yep.
You can't say it was this teammate or that teammate. Yep. It's you and another individual out on the mat, and you either win and you're better that day or you're not. And it was tough as a 16-year-old kid, in high school, that, you're trying to find what you're going to be in life. You're trying to find your confidence maybe as a young man, and to go out and get beat in front of your school and to see that. So it was tough. And one of the reasons I made it through it was I had some good teammates, really good coaches. So Gary Cantor was going to be here, and he ended up having to go to Ohio for some family today, and then Eddie Payton. But I had some really good coaches, and I had some really good teammates. And after I got through that first year, I stayed with it because my little brother Chris, Chris was a 3 or 4 time state placer, was a really good wrestler. Very technical. He was in 7th grade, and I stayed with it so that he could do it, and because I wanted to quit. And I'm sure everybody's been there at some point. I wanted to quit after I was. Who wants to be no good at something?
Right.
But we went to a couple camps. My junior year, I was 40-7, and we talked a little bit about that. I made it just 2 medal rounds at state. Jason Dietrich was the only individual to ever win state and place at state. and he did it in '98, and we had 2 state placers. He placed in '97 was the first state placer, and then '98 we had 2, and I just missed it. And in my senior year, I was fortunate enough to go 42-0. I don't know that the weight class. This isn't disrespectful to any of the other kids in the weight class. I did not know that I was the only pin of the bracket, which is pretty cool. But you never like to be. I try to be a pretty humble person. I don't have any. What's the right? I don't have any. What's the word I'm looking for, Alex? I know how good I was or wasn't. There was a lot of other wrestlers that were a lot better than me, and
that's what
I just happened to find a niche, and and proud of what I did. But I don't know that it was the most competitive. I think everybody in their own right. It's how it is. So.
Well, this '99 year so far, I've done Isaac Knable, Chris Dunn, Damian Level, Josh Stepp, Chris Floyd, and Joey Stepp in heavyweight. So you had Damian above you at 145. You had Chris Dunn below you.
Yeah.
So you had,
both excellent wrestlers. Yeah.
You had some studs, and then you had Stepp above you at 52, who ended up winning most outstanding. So you were kind of in no man's land. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so far, 99 has been the most years that I've done, or most reviews I've done with people. I had a lot of good wrestling in 99.
Yeah.
Let's go over this bracket real quick.
Sure.
Now, of course, 140 pounds at the Dungeon in Frankfurt. First round, you wrestled Brad Francis from Sheldon Clark. You win that by fall in 1 minute and 58 seconds.
Yep.
And I've got that noted on my bracket. Only fall in the championship round. You go through the quarters. You wrestle Sean McCarthy from Fern Creek.
Yep.
You win that by a 17-5 major decision. Had you wrestled either of those guys before?
Brad, I'd wrestled in state duels and beat him, and Sean, I don't remember if I don't think Sean and I had wrestled. His brother Ricky was the state champion from the year before.
Okay.
At Fern Creek, and Sean. Fun fact: Sean and Jason were the first wrestling coaches at Nelson County's wrestling team. They started the program over at Nelson County, so Sean's a good dude. Yeah.
That's cool. And Sean ends up getting 4th that year, and you go to the semifinals. You wrestle James Bartlett from Campbell County, ended up coming in 3rd. Yep. And you told me the story. Now, what you were saying about that should have been.
Yeah, James was probably the stiffest competition. James had a really good year that year. He was tough. We had never wrestled before. Not taking anything away from Josh or any of the other kids I wrestled. I didn't get a meet. I'd like to look at it, see if I think I wrestled everybody. Let's go through it, but I think I wrestled everybody in the whole bracket. But James was
Josh Mitchell from Fairdale.
Josh and I did not wrestle.
Chad.
Josh was good though.
Galton from, it looks like Simon Kenton.
I did. I believe I did wrestle Chad.
Virgil,
I know I wrestled. Yep.
Charlie Mahoney, Hot Town.
I beat Charlie at Region. Charlie's another good dude.
Mike Bell from Scott, Covington Scott.
No, don't remember him.
Brian Morris from Seneca.
Yep. Wrestled Brian.
Louis Bartolucci from Central.
Louis and I wrestled several times.
You wrestled James. Mike Sullivan. Shout out Mike Sullivan.
Mike and I wrestled. Yeah.
Chris Johnson from Fort Campbell.
I don't remember wrestling Chris.
Kevin Rodriguez from Wayne County.
Yeah.
Wayne had a good team that year. They had a lot of good kids. They had Phillip. They had Lloyd Sparks in the finals. They had Chris Floyd won it, but they had some. That's
Phillip
some good kids.
was a weight above me. That's who wrestled Damien.
Damien, that's exactly right. Greg Wetzelberg from St. Xavier.
I believe Greg and I wrestled. Yeah. So I would have wrestled all of those at some point that year. That's pretty neat.
So you get to the
final.
final.
My class went. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
Mine. So I wrestled the second, third, and fourth. They all came. So my side of the bracket was fairly low.
Yeah, that side was tough. Josh Wilkinson in the finals. Had you wrestled him before?
I had. Josh and I had wrestled a year prior. In my junior year, we had wrestled.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we're not going to tell you the score. You're going to have to watch along with us. We'll score it as we go. But you said you were friends with Jason, and he'd been there before.
Yes.
Under the lights. Does he give you any advice? Don't get out there and lay an egg. Just whatever. Stay off your back and don't suck. Or
others probably had this experience. So this was at the Dungeon, at the Frankfurt Civic Center, and it was there was that big hallway behind the Dungeon.
Yep.
And you were kind of by yourself. So you do the way it worked is you do face-offs, super awesome environment. You all probably seen that.
Oh yeah.
I wish the state would come back to doing something like that. I think we had, I also officiated several years, as you know, and we had what I think was one of the coolest and most exciting live events of a high school sports or state championship. And so you had all this energy packed into the face-offs, and it goes down, and it's just you. And wrestling's, I don't know that I ever completely mastered the fact that you were going out into a championship match and it's just you. There's such a mental aspect to wrestling. And so Jason and I didn't talk a whole lot, but what I had done, I was telling Ozzy, who you videoed earlier, it's like I was a stats guy. I'm an engineer in life today, so I was stats, and I always was good at setting goals. And I had set goals when I didn't medal as a junior, and said I want to be undefeated. I wanted to run so many miles a day. I was going to train this hard. I had played. This is before they had iPods or phones.
Right.
I had a tape, which it wasn't a Walkman, but like a Walkman. So get that visual in. I had made. It was a CD player, is what it was, and I had burned a CD that I had told myself I was going to listen to these songs before I went out there and wrestled. And I always kind of hyped myself up and had a group of songs, but there was one song that I was going to listen to before the state championship match. So to get myself in that zone, I listened to it. And I also had given up Cokes. It was just something silly mental, but I had given up Cokes. I said I wasn't going to drink another Coke until I won a state wrestling championship. So, no, Jason, I don't recall Jason. We were good buddies, but we talked to each other. But I think you were kind of alone, and
I got to ask, what was the song?
If people are going to make fun of me, and you all can, it's okay. It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, I get it.
Yeah, the rest of my stuff was Rob Zombie, so I wasn't. But I had heard that song that summer, and it's just a really pretty song and little soft. Probably not a good pump up song before your state finals match, but
it worked.
I said I'm going to listen to that. I won't listen to that song again until I walk out on that wrestling mat. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, enough of us talking about it. You ready to watch it?
I am. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
You can watch it with me, Anna?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's go. We're at the Farnham Dungeon Center. You guys are seeing this trademark colored mat. Now, Jim said earlier about the face-off. I didn't tell him this, but I've actually got the face-off, and it's on here. So we're going to go from the face-off for him right into the match. Let's do this. Turn up the volume just a little bit.
We'll have some stuff. So I had some weird superstitions. I wore the same socks the entire year, didn't wash them the entire year. They were pretty rank by this time of the year.
I guarantee it. There you go. So what's your go-to takedown?
It was that. It was really a setup, high crotch to a cut double or single, and yeah, it was that, really a pop up and penetrate.
Mm-hmm. So he gave you the takedown.
That might have been the only takedown. I can't remember in the match. But
Think about this. These older videos, the audio, sometimes it goes high, sometimes it goes low. We go to caution. Now, you're under the lights. Can you hear the fans? Can you hear, parents or anybody screaming for you, or is this just you?
You don't. Mm-hmm. You think about it a lot. Maybe it's in your mind.
Right.
I remember this happening a lot. This is going to happen a lot throughout. It seemed that out of bounds line was somewhere we ended up quite a bit. But Josh was Henry Clay.
Yeah,
Henry Clay, and so no, you do until the match starts, and then you get in your zone, and you're just I didn't hear my coaches. You don't hear the crowd.
Right.
You're focused in on the task at hand. At least that's what it was for me. I remember Josh was quite a bit taller than I was. He had improved a lot. Like I said, we had wrestled the year before, and he'd improved quite a bit. We hadn't seen each other throughout this year. but he was really tall on leverage.
So what do you think about Dad so far?
Good.
He's good, isn't he?
I said I didn't have a lot of pinning combinations on top. You can only learn. I think you learned several moves.
Got stalling, backing out.
Yeah, they got on a real kick. You know, I officiated for several years, and stalling was, these crews hadn't worked together, and stalling comes into play in this match, I believe. That's the move I was telling you about when I fished my arm over. This was the one individual, the one that was the head official. He's the assistant that was in my semifinals match I told you about.
Yep.
But
there we go, 2.
so there's 2 takedowns. I did a lot of this too. I was fixing that, and I got, you know, I was telling you I'd done it all year. You get these habits of how you wrestle and how you go through the cadence of a match.
Yeah.
I think that comes back. See, if I knew now what I know, that perfect setup, I could have come in and gotten some back points out of that, and I didn't.
It's so many guys. There's a stalling again.
Who did you call that? Which one was that on?
It should have been. He held up red.
I was, I can't remember which color.
You're green in this match.
Okay. Well, it's good, because I remember ending up every time the action went out of bounds.
Mm-hmm.
I had some pretty basic moves on top. I'd do a chop down.
Right.
I had a front move to, I think I let him go.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
It is 1.
So now I'm, what's it, 4-2?
4-2.
First period. I remember driving a lot, and of course I'm ending up out of bounds here too. I wasn't getting back to the middle super quick, was I?
Okay,
He
he
had
had a period.
Yep. What do you think, Anna?
Which one's you?
Which one's me?
I don't know. I can't keep track of
I'm
it
the
anymore.
shorter one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can't keep track of
That
it
boy
anymore.
that's getting down right now is Mr. Josh. I don't know if Josh and I ever talked about this match. I don't.
Right, optional start.
Yeah.
Was that a coaching decision? Or
No, it's just it's sometimes I would try to go to a cradle out of it, and
Just like that right there.
most of the time I just. There we go, ending up out of bounds again.
Again.
I wasn't as, I didn't mind, but I let people up. If I couldn't get something going, I'd usually let them up. And I was better on my feet, certainly, than I was.
Yeah, that's.
I remember him being so long, and
I've done the videos with Tendai Churasika, 95, 96, 97, or 94, 95, 96. And that's what he said, that he hated wrestling on top.
yeah.
So I was a takedown, work for a pinning combination. If I couldn't get it, I was going to let you up. And that, I mean, you.
Probably what I should have just left this on the feet, but there I go.
There you go.
Let it up.
And I mean, we made it to this level, especially being senior,
Right.
and you know what you're good at, you know what you're not good at.
Right.
Or at least you should be. At
Yeah,
least
I'm
somewhat.
letting the action drive me out of bounds.
Mhm.
He's telling us, I think he's telling us, we ended up out of bounds quite a bit.
Mhm.
This was an official out of Louisville, so I hadn't seen him all year, and then others, a guy out of Northern Kentucky, like I was telling you. And here we go. So let's see. I don't know what I've seen a shot. I've seen some setups, some arm drags and Russians, and Josh was more defensive. He was going to try to get it off the counter. I should have attacked the legs more. And of course, now you're in a state championship, and
There it is.
so I had 2 shots right there. You see, my attack's pretty much the same though.
Hey,
There's the 3rd shot. Yeah, more active than I remembered being in the match. Now here,
Ooh, yep. So that was your second stall. He must have hit you earlier. He must have held up the wrong hand or something.
he hit me right off the bat in the first period.
Okay.
And so here, you look at it and it's my action taken out, but I remember watch Josh get it and he's driving me. He's got that arm in. Of course, you got to stay in the center. I mean, both wrestlers are supposed to stay in the center. My action's taking me out of bounds right now.
There you go. Circle back in.
Oh, about got it. Of course, when you have somebody that takes 3 to 4 shots.
All right, we got start.
I don't remember. I had the injury time. Had some blood. I told you in my quarterfinal match, I cracked my head wrestling Sean McCarthy. And
so right here, what's your coach telling you? You remember any words of wisdom?
I don't. I'd like to say I had that good of a memory, but you get to this point, one of the things about it, you were cutting weight at this point. And I wrestled 140 pounds, and I cut not a tremendous amount, but I always remember my body after state duels. When you're a high school kid, my body it would slowly start to get the aches, and I had a little rotator cuff issue, and everybody's kind of beat up by this point. And I remember my body just being kind of depleted physically at this point.
I can understand, especially with the way weight cutting was even back then. No way to regulate it, or you got guys cutting 30 pounds seems like to get down to certain weights.
It's funny when you get back and watch it. I knew there was some stalling in the match, and I don't know if he didn't hit me again, but I think we went out of bounds. But I'd have to watch it again. But it seems like stalling was called a little aggressive in that first period.
So, what's your go-to stand-up? What we looking to?
I had just a basic stand-up, and I would do it backwards from what everybody was, and I don't think there was anybody that could have held me down that year. I'd gotten really good at being able to get away on the bottom. I was strong and pretty explosive, and I didn't have any trouble on the bottom getting up. I was pretty weak. I wasn't as technically sound on top, but I was pretty decent on my feet. And there's another shot.
You got good defense.
Well, there it is, another one. He was long, I remember that. I've outshot him quite a bit more than I remember. I've been counting here, I've taken about 5 or 6 shots. See, they're talking. I think they hit me for stalling again. I see stuff like that in a state championship match. I know it's a rule, but I guess my foot was in front. Yeah. Used to have the rule your foot couldn't be in front of the other plane, or it was a caution. So now I got 2 cautions.
2 cautions
in a state championship match. And now I'm doing the action here. There's another shot.
Stalling red. 1 green.
The give stalling. Okay, well, that's fair. They're being consistent, so we're equal on stalling now, right? What is there, a minute?
Minute 6.
A minute left. There we go. Here's some more action and shot. I don't remember. I think there's 1 more takedown. See now, they're talking about.
No, that wasn't stuff. No, that's a wrestle on.
See, there's my shoulder that I was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I remember after that. Josh was really good about using the leverage.
He gave him a.
I don't know what that was.
He thinks it flee the mat right there is what he signaled. 1, like he was pointing out, and he gave him 1. Wow.
I don't know if I don't. See, all the action was pushing. I remember them being really aggressive, pushing, and you get towards the edge, and then they flip you around and push you, and of course, there we go, shot. there's more action and shots than I remember it being. I remember it being, I didn't have a lot of close matches that year. I only had a couple that were, you know, fairly close. Now I could say, you could look at it and say I'm on the verge of, I'm playing that line myself a little bit at this point, but what's the score? 6-5?
6-5, you're up 1 point.
See, look at it driving me out,
Yep.
and I'm trying to get back in. There we go.
No, neutral.
Oh no, I'd have to watch that again. Probably was a good call. They conferred as they should. I was playing the line. I don't know what I really deserved to. He could have called me for another caution right there because my foot was in front of it. So thankfully he didn't do that.
That's it.
6-5.
6-5.
It was way more competitive than in my mind I remember it being. But again, this was a typical match of, you know, Josh was a good guy. I remember, I don't know where Josh is at.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did. We got to talk about this a little because if my dad watches this, he'll get it. So my dad was videotaping this whole time, Annabeth, and this was for those that remember. In 1999, the Atlanta Falcons were popular, and there was a guy doing the Dirty Bird.
Yeah.
So I said I was going to do the Dirty Bird after I think Jason does one too. Would you do it later? But
the Dirty Bird.
My dad can be seen on the video, so my dad's watching this. And I didn't have a lot of competitive close matches that year as a senior. And my dad can be heard on the video. Said, "Yeah, I'd really be dancing if I didn't do any better than that in the last match."
I'd love to have that for the audio.
I'm sure Dad's got it somewhere, but
that's awesome, man.
Kids don't dance after your wrestling match. It looked like I did just there because it's not good. But I forgot about that.
That's awesome. I'm glad that's on there.
Yeah,
I'm glad that's on there.
You'd have to meet Big Jim to understand it. I told him, yeah, I went undefeated. You know, I had a pretty good senior year, won a state championship, and he's like, if I didn't do any better than that, I wouldn't be celebrating it like that. So,
well, you guys are the Hawks. You call that the Hawk dance, or Hawk strut, or whatever.
It's a terrible dance, is what it is.
Cece, come over here just a second. And,
come here, Annabeth.
Let me kind of pan the camera down just a little bit, just for you. So you got to watch Dad wrestle. Was he as good as he says he is at the house? Kinda. So.
We don't talk about it a lot. I got a 6-year-old boy that's just getting into wrestling, but Daddy doesn't talk a lot about wrestling, does he?
No, really? Well, your dad's one of the best, whether he talks about it or not. So thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Jim, man, anything to put a bow on this to wrap it up? Any closing thoughts? Any closing words?
You know, I just won, Alex. I appreciate you doing this. I think there's a lot of people that this means a lot. They're good memories to a lot of people, and thank you for doing it. Commend you for doing it. And I said it earlier. Wrestling was there's so much more than a state championship that I got out of wrestling. I got some of my best friends, my work ethic, my discipline. It's such a good sport. I gave back to it for several years. Still somewhat. I'm still a registered official. I just haven't been on the mat for a while, but helped get some things going with the officialing side of to where when kids got to the state tournament, you had more consistency in how calls were made, and just hopefully that it was less about officials and more about the athletes and the individuals. But it's been a good sport. I've got great friends in it, and thank you for I'm not this guy that's like, yeah, you all might watch this, and I kind of avoided Alex, like I don't really want to do that. I told my wife, I'm like, I just don't need to do this, but I appreciate you doing it for everybody. And I did it so maybe one day my kids can go back and watch it and know that their dad at one point was a little athletic. And
George King has so far the best line about letting kids and stuff watch after the fact is maybe not now, but at one time Dad could do it.
That's right.
But
I'm right there with George. In my mind, I can still do it. Physically, it might be a different story.
I think we're all at that point. One last thing real quick. You're talking about, the work ethic and how hard wrestling is. Yep. I'm not going to say who it is, but a good friend of mine, former wrestler, he had some kidney issues a couple years ago, and talking about it, he said that everything he went through, he said it wasn't harder than wrestling practice.
No.
He said, as sick as I was, as bad as I felt, as hard as it was on my body, he said it wasn't hard as wrestling practice.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that is that's a great way to, like, I've already been there, I've already done this, I'm going to get through this. And we got one more video with Jim. It's going to be below this. You officiated. We're going to do a official video review of a very, I'm not going to say who it is, very popular, very prominently known NCAA champion from Penn State. That should give it away. But we're going to wrap this one up. I want to say thank you again to Jim for having me in his office and bringing me down and doing it here for all the other guys. We will see you guys on the video that's below this for Jim's official, well, I guess that's the right word, the official video review. We'll see you guys there.